Hey, ladies of the Facebook community, Video Confidence Secrets. I'm Janie Peters, and coming back into the interview series today, Friday, June 25th. And I've been looking forward to this conversation for a long time because I was doing some research on just what's going on in our brains when we get on that online platform and we take the stage in Facebook Live or going live wherever we're at, because there's some chemicals flowing in here. And so I did some research a few months back and I found this amazing woman who I'm about to introduce to you, Loretta Breuning, PhD. She's the founder of Inner Mammal Institute and also the author of her recent book, Habits of a Happy Brain. Show you the book here. And it's about retrain your brain to boost your serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, and endorphin levels. She's Professor Emerita of Management at California State University, East Bay. And I will bring her into the studio right now. Welcome, Loretta. So happy to have you here. It's an honor.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you. And I want to say, as I was introducing you, I was researching just what the topic of what's going on in our brains a while back. And I found all these videos that you have on your YouTube channel. And literally on my whiteboard here, I was writing copious notes about not just the chemicals that were released, but you did such a great job of explaining the actual situations that where these chemicals happen in our lives and how it's all linked to our inner mammal. So thank you for agreeing to be here. So happy. Let's start because there's so much information here. There's so much content to review. And I want to start with, housekeeping stuff right now. For any of you watching on Facebook, I'm streaming from StreamYard. So what that means is if you have any questions and you're not allowing StreamYard to put your comments on, I'll still see them, but they just show up as Facebook user. So just want to let you know about that. Not a big deal. We still get your questions and we will go ahead and answer your questions at the end of this stream. If we don't get to your questions, we'll go ahead and make sure to comment below after the stream. Okay, done with the housekeeping stuff. So Loretta, can you share how you got into this research? What drew you to it?
Sure. Well, I started when I was a kid. Let's say that my mother was distressed a lot and I grew up around a lot of tension and I tried to make sense of it, as children do. And in some places, children are offered some specific explanation that they settle on. But in my case, it was like a mystery. So I think I always had to, what are people what's all the drama about, because there was no obvious threat. And of course, like every child, I thought it's all going to be different when I'm young. So when I grew up and I had thousands of students and 2 children of my own, and I did everything different and I did everything according to the book of social science. And yet the reality was that you don't end up with children and students who are just happy and motivated every minute of every day. So that drove me to do a little more research. And in my explorations, and I'm a big fan of Audible too, so I can get through a lot of books because whenever I'm doing something other than sitting, I'm listening to an Audible book. So nobody paid me to say that. So I would hear one little mention of a happy brain chemical in animals. And I'd hear another little mention of another happy brain chemical in another animal situation, and no one put it together. So that's what I did. I started collecting and seeking those examples. And when you mentioned how I give situations that stimulate the chemicals, but it's always situations in animals because it's so obvious when you see it from an animal's perspective that that's the job our brain is designed to do.
Right. I love that. That's fascinating that you made that connection and then started researching it more and thought, wait, no one's making this. Hey, this is something to explore. Love that. Because I will say from my own personal experience, really feeling like connected to the animal kingdom was when I first became a mom. And all of a sudden I knew exactly, like I could look at mother animals and just completely connect with them on a level that I had never fathomed before.
Because it's all nonverbal. It's not the verbal brain. So where is that coming from? And where it's coming from is our chemicals are controlled by brain structures we've inherited from animals, known as the limbic system, and all my books explain this in more detail. But that's how animals do this and that without conscious thought, and that's how so much of our day we are doing things without conscious thought.
Okay, so let's get into your book and the research. And we talked just before here, and you wanted to start it off with explaining what you were just talking about, that our brains are inherited from people who survived, and we have inherited a brain that's focused on survival. So that's our starting point, right?
Yes, and many philosophies today, you often hear negative things about survival, that you shouldn't just survive, you should thrive. And that sounds nice in theory, but then inside you have an inner mammal that's always looking for survival threats. And if you don't understand your inner mammal and learn to negotiate with it, then it will just take over. Sort of like if you're going horseback riding and the horse refuses to do what you say and runs back into the barn. Mm-hmm. So that's why it's so valuable to be honest and real about your survival brain, and also in social circumstances. So animals survive by asserting themselves, because that gets them more food and more mating opportunity, and that promotes their genes. And although we're not consciously thinking about promoting our genes, our brains are inherited from individuals who did that. So you've inherited a brain that rewards you with a good feeling when you assert yourself socially, but then it also alarms you with a bad feeling when you feel like your assertion may fail. But the bad feeling is the same as the chemical that tells you that a predator is chasing you. So that's why public speaking is hard.
Ooh, right. Okay. Yeah. Because the whole reason why I wanted you to come in here is to really talk about what's going on in our brains when we're taking that online stage, because it's very similar to public speaking in the sense that we are rising up out of the herd, if you will, and we're getting noticed, and it's not natural for our brains to be sticking out of the herd like that. And so what's happening in our brains? I know we're getting rewarded, but then we're also getting surges of the unhappy chemicals, right?
Threat chemicals. Yeah. So we have a bunch of different happy chemicals. So the urge to be accepted and belong and be in the herd, that's oxytocin. But then we also have an urge to be special. It's so clear that we all have this urge to be special because our brain rewards it with serotonin. We work hard to restrain it and to express it in healthy ways, but sometimes we also are told to snuff it out. So that's one whole aspect I talked about already. So we want to assert because serotonin makes it feel good. But on the other side, once you speak up, you're worried, I could say something wrong. What would happen if you say something wrong? Each of us has our own theory of what would happen if you say something wrong, because unhappy chemicals pave pathways in your brain, just like happy chemicals. So whatever went wrong in my past built my neural pathways that tell me what will go wrong when I speak up. And for you, you have your pathways that turn on your cortisol that says, oh my God, if you say the wrong thing, this will happen. So it's very valuable to understand that we built our own pathways and we're triggering them ourselves, because then we know that it's not other people judging us, but we are creating that judgment with pathways built from the judgments of our early years, because that's when our brain was formed.
Okay. But I understand that we have our own journeys, and we've been rewiring our brains since we've been alive, right? Okay. So, but there are also the basic chemicals and situations that we all come from the same starting place, right? Am I getting that? In terms of like how everything.
And when you said we're all rewiring from birth, we're all wiring from birth. We're not rewiring, because infants are not born with wiring.
Okay. Okay, got it. So and I know you've been talking about some of the happy chemicals. Can you review those 4 happy chemicals and maybe a brief description of when they're released and how that works?
Sure. So the core motivator in human life is dopamine. We've heard a lot about this in the media lately, but unfortunately, we only hear about it in a negative context. So it's always blaming dopamine for some behavior. But the reason we do these things is because we want the dopamine, because we're designed to seek it. So we can either seek it in healthy ways or unhealthy ways. And the reality is that the way we seek it is the way we got it before, because that built our dopamine pathways. So a simple example is every monkey learns to feed itself, despite the fact that nobody taught it with words, and nobody ever gives a monkey solid food. It gets only mother's milk, and then it learns to feed itself because when it sees its mother grab something, and mirror neurons make it want to grab, and when it puts the food in, it's like, wow, that meets my needs. So that's the feeling of dopamine is, wow, that meets my needs. And we want that feeling. That's what makes life feel rewarding and exciting. And our ancestors did not have a refrigerator, so they had to look for food all the time. So they got their dopamine, just finding food and water and firewood made them happy. But you meet your basic needs so easily that we look for other ways to get that wow feeling. Now, and we're biased by whatever got it in our past.
Right. I just have a question about that, because you mentioned, nowadays when dopamine is always associated negatively, even though it's considered a happy chemical. Why is that? I mean, is it just because it just looks bad if you're trying to reward yourself, and you shouldn't be patting yourself on the back kind of thing?
No, it's because when people have an addiction, whether it's to a substance or a behavior, that dopamine motivates that moment when you say, I just have to have another brownie. I don't care what the consequences are. Okay. So it's your higher human brain that has a potential to be aware of the consequences of having another brownie, but it's your animal brain that says, I will feel so good if I have another brownie, that I will die if I don't have it. So obviously you won't die if you don't have another brownie. So why does your animal brain create that? It's really the deeper reason that doesn't get attention in the media is distraction, really. So whenever I have a bad feeling, it's because in the animal world, animals only worry about predators when the predator is right there. They don't worry about possible future threats. If they did, they live in a world full of predators. They wouldn't go out. They would die. So I can imagine a lion chasing me, even when there's no lion chasing me. And the more I imagine it, the more I wire my brain to imagine that this threat is about to get me. And we all know what I'm talking about, right? Now, the minute I say, gee, I'd like to have another brownie, I can't think about the lion and the brownie at the same time. So that's like just thinking about getting the brownie shifts me from feeling bad to feeling good. And the currently popular example is if I think about my device. Instead of a brownie, because so many people now are concerned about their health, so they obsess over something else but it's the same thing. It distracts you from negative thoughts. So we all need these self-soothing tools, and we just need to know that we can create new ones so we don't abuse the ones we have.
It's about finding that healthy balance, right? Is that for all 4 of these happy chemicals, they can all be abused because it's so pleasurable to receive that release of those chemicals, the serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, and endorphins. So, okay, thank you for explaining that. And then there's the oxytocin, which is all about bonding.
Oxytocin is about bonding, and people may have heard it called the love chemical. And in the currently popular information, it's about hugging and pets. But this is very superficial, because if you hug someone you don't like, then it doesn't really meet your inner mammal's deeper need. It's actually the urge for social support. And the urge for social support is an essentially selfish urge. And when you see a gazelle run toward the herd, it's really trying to save its own life, even if someone else gets eaten. So we really need to know this, because if you idealize social bonds too much, you're going to then just be mad at all your friends because they're not giving up their lives for you, you know? And also you can maybe be hugging people you don't like and thinking it's not working. So
I love that. Yeah. I love that analogy in your book when you talked about the herd, that all the animals are trying to get to the center. Like, push you out, let the lions eat you, and I'm going to go as close to the center as possible. And we humans do the same thing. When it's just about understanding it.
Yes, and the solution, just so people don't get too upset with me, is reciprocity. So if I protect you and you protect me, so that's what the human brain can do. Mammals can do it in the very short run, and humans can do it in the longer run, this kind of mutual reciprocation that I will give you a birthday present, and 6 months from now, you'll give me a birthday present. And that's rude to have a conscious reciprocation on your mind, but that's what makes your inner mammal feel safe.
Right. Okay. And then lastly, it's endorphin.
So endorphin I don't focus on because it's the body's natural opioid. It masks pain with a euphoric feeling, and it's only there for real physical pain. We're not designed to try to stimulate it. And yet people do try to stimulate it. And where I live, many people are exercise junkies, and inflicting pain on yourself works in the short run because it distracts you from the bad thoughts. But in the long run, you can see that it's a really bad idea. So that's why I say in all my books that we're designed to seek the other chemicals, but we're not designed to seek endorphin.
Okay, very good. And then the unhappy chemicals, what was the word you used for them? Is that?
Oh, well, I say threat chemicals, but cortisol is the main one. And again, cortisol gives you a full body feeling that you're facing a real survival threat. So in the world of danger that our ancestors lived in, they had a lot of real physical threats. And the simple example I like to use, imagine sometime if your tooth hurts. And if you lived in the world in the past, there's no dentist, couldn't do anything about it. And you would just be in pain until the tooth fell out, like for months. It's horrible, till the tooth and fell out. So that's the world of our ancestors, you know. And if you live in such a safe and comfortable world today, but you don't get invited to a party, and your brain releases cortisol because that's the worst pain you know. And so people in today's world are sort of taking that out of proportion. And that's why if you give a talk and let's say you don't even get criticized for your talk, but you get no reaction at all, which is very common, right? And you can build that into a total survival threat because you're safe and warm.
Wait, say that again. You can build that into a survival threat. Because you don't have an actual, there's no lion coming in to attack you and eat you. So that's where you releasing the cortisol, because that's current day threat. Social threats.
It's because you have no bigger threat to focus on, to grab your attention. And also because unconsciously, whatever you're speaking out on is something you have linked to your survival for a healthy reason, which is, I use the shorthand term legacy, which means my brain cares about my own survival, but my human cortex can see the future and know that I won't survive forever. So my human cortex terrorizes my inner mammal with, like, you're not going to survive. You're not going to survive. So I want to create something that will survive. And we all want to create something that will survive. And in most of human history, there was no birth control. So you were creating children and grandchildren, and they sucked up all of your energy. So you didn't have to overthink how to create something that will survive. But today, we're all thinking of other ways to create a legacy. And that relieves your fear of not surviving for a moment. But then and so I think about, I'm going to create this great thing, and that stimulates my dopamine and it distracts me from cortisol. But the minute my climbing of that mountain reaches an obstacle, then it feels like a survival threat if I don't have a bigger threat.
Mm-hmm. I get it. I get it. Yeah. So, I mean, it's the cortisol is going to be released because of the threats we perceive current day. They're not the threats that our ancestors were living through. And, but it's also, we need cortisol, right? I mean, we also need to feel that surge because we're still protecting ourselves, and our brain is just there to protect us always.
And one way you need it, to just give you a practical, let's say I do something toward my dream, take a few steps, and I get no response. Maybe I should try something different. So the cortisol is there to give you feedback on your return to your effort, because effort is our most limited thing in this world, our energy. So if I'm getting a bad return to my energy, it's like when a lion chases a gazelle and the gazelle gets away. If the lion keeps chasing the gazelle that got away, the lion's going to starve to death. So at some point, the lion has to say, this one has gotten away. Let me give up, as much as I hate to give up, and find a better target. So, and that's all the decisions that entrepreneurs are making when we make all these tough decisions about where to invest our energy.
Right. And so what I'm getting, the whole, like the balance between the threat chemicals, the happy chemicals, is when it comes to getting on that on stage, this online stage, and showing up on Facebook Live or live anywhere, is that you are now rising above the herd and you feel that social importance, which is what we're all seeking. And what do we get? Is it the serotonin that we get from that? Okay. Yes. And then, then when let's say we're live and we have some people watching and we see that, okay, we've got eyeballs on me right now. And okay, I'm feeling that importance. So maybe there's both serotonin and dopamine releasing. And then we see, wait a minute, those people went away. There was someone watching me and now they're gone. And now, right, it's the cortisol.
So the interesting thing is we all have different wiring for that bad moment. I often, I didn't feel bad before a talk, but I would feel bad after a talk. So that's because when I was a kid, sometimes my mother would scream at me for something that happened a week before. And all of a sudden, so every one of us, whereas my husband had the opposite. He was always criticized for, you should think it through before you speak up. And no matter how much he thought it through, it was never enough. So you were always wrong. You shouldn't speak up. You should wait and think about it longer. So whatever criticism you anticipate, look at it closely and you'll find the basic pattern of your childhood. And you'll see that if you ask other people, they fear some other pattern. And then you see how you're creating it. And the simplistic example is looks, okay? So some people are going to think people are critiquing this part of my anatomy, and other people think people are criticizing that part of my anatomy. And then when you say, oh, gee, I wasn't even worried about that part of my anatomy. So it just shows how we create our own worries.
Right. And I will say, speaking for myself, just finally taking the online stage, finally speaking up and rising up and peeking out of the herd. It's not just the people that it's actually not really about the people who don't know me. It's the people that know me. And sometimes when I think it's very common, right? When you're rising up and all of a sudden your loved ones are looking at you and achieving and reaching for your goals and going for it and pushing through the cortisol. And they try to warn you because they want to keep you safe. And really they're just projecting their own fears onto you, right? Because I feel like that is a big problem when it comes to women stepping into their power. They don't want to upset the people in their lives that are going to be uncomfortable with their success.
Yes. And once again, this can take many varieties depending on the individual experience. So another variation of that is the person could actually be jealous of you, or they're worried that they're going to lose you as you spin into a new orbit. And another variant of it is it could be my fault because I have created unrealistic expectations. This is what I said about the bad view of oxytocin, that everybody around me should be my cheerleader and they should cheer me every minute and give me unconditional support. And if they don't do that, then I'm judging them, but I'm projecting it onto them that they're judging me. But really, it's just my expectations that need to be more realistic. And this is the subject of my second book, The Science of Positivity, that negativity is natural and most people bond around negativity. So once you stop being part of the negativity club, then, you know, they may cancel your membership in the club, and then you may be all sulky about that, but you created that sulk. So instead you could be realistic and say, you know what, I'm going to start my own positivity club, and the club's going to do what I think, and other people could join or not. I'm not even going to think about it. And if you look at human history, everyone who has ever created anything, this is how they did it. Nobody got unconditional support when they were doing something new. And that's just wrong for people to be taught to expect that.
Right. You need to find the right social group. I mean, you can't really change your family, but you can find the right support to where you're not dealing with all of that stuff, and you're able to thrive and to do what you need to do and step out of the herd from time to time and manage that. And in an effort of time, I know you want to talk about, here's some ways. I know you've been doing that throughout this talk, but what are some specific ways that we can start that rewiring process and to get more of the happy chemicals, so we're not just always dipping into the threat chemicals?
Sure. So rewiring takes more repetition than people would expect. So I say it's exactly like learning a foreign language. How do you learn a foreign language? Is you feed yourself new information repeatedly. So when you try to do something new, you are physically trying to build new connections between neurons. It doesn't happen immediately. So what you want to remember is each time you do it, it will get a little easier, but you will have to do a lot of repetition. And I estimate in about 45 days, a new pathway will be built. And it's literally that the electricity in your brain flows into the biggest pathway. So if the biggest pathway is, when I speak up, everybody is going to think X, and then your electricity flows there. You have to do enough repetition of the new choice so that your electricity flows in the new direction. So you have to define the new choice very clearly. So first, understand what it is you're already telling yourself. Then design the healthier thought that you want to have that replaces it. And then, like in my case, it was not so much being criticized, but being ignored. Like, because I think I was ignored when I was young, and I panicked about that. Like, what if I speak up and everybody just ignores me? And I decided a positive spin on that was, I get to say whatever I want if people ignore me. That's like the most precious thing in life to me, is like, I'm going to just say whatever I want because nobody's listening anyway. And that was so everyone has to design their own solution and then repeat it.
I love that. It's almost like creating affirmations, right? Like to have like affirmations posted somewhere to remind you, because as you go through it, and I'll use the example of just showing up live in this Facebook community. I had been doing videos for my business years before, but they were always recorded. They were always edited, and it took so much time. And I thought, just gotta go live. And starting last November, I've just been consistent. And I think it's just about pushing through, because all of that stuff is going to surface, and you just have to kind of weather the storm, right? And just remember at the end of it, this is why I'm doing it. And here's my power. And as you say, I can talk about whatever I want to talk about, and people are going to have to listen to me, and just finding whatever that affirmation is for you.
Exactly. It's your unique individual affirmation. It's not like Stuart Smalley saying, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough. And also you have to believe it on some level, it has to be believable. So you try, make an effort to construct it in a way that you believe it.
And it's just keep on doing it and just stay focused. Like for me, it was coming on live once a week, and I just set that reminder and I just put it out to the community. I will be here, and I would stress out all week. What am I going to talk about? But I'm going to do it because I've committed to it. And it was just about walking the walk. And I will say now where I'm at right now, I have such a higher comfort level for it because I was doing what you were saying. So I guess I had been not realizing I was rewiring. I've been doing that and then just helping other women do it too. Loretta, thank you so much for being here. Is there anything else that I want to make sure that you got everything out. You gave us a ton of information. I want to pass it to you right now. And since we're wrapping up here, I just want to, whatever you would like to talk about. And ladies, just know if you have any questions and you're watching this on the replay, please put your comments below and we will get to you. And also I will be linking how you connect with Loretta down in the comments as well. So Loretta, it is all yours.
Sure. Well, I always want to mention social comparison. So our brain really evolved to make social comparisons. So when I talked about asserting and being special, you're comparing yourself to others when you do that. And although it's sort of taboo, everyone does it because every monkey does it all day, every day. Because if a monkey grabs a banana and you're a stronger monkey, it's going to get bitten. So it compares before it goes for anything. And you are comparing all the time, but you are comparing in the ways that you wired in your past. So you need to be conscious of that so that you know how you're doing it, so you don't just think other people are doing it to you. And when you compare favorably, that's when you get that little bit of serotonin. It doesn't last, and then you want more. So this is the subject of my new book called Status Games, Why We Play and How to Stop. And it will be released on September 8th. It's available for pre-order now. And all of my books are mentioned on my website, innermammalinstitute.org. And I have lots and lots of free resources too. I have a book called Tame Your Anxiety, and podcast and videos and a free 5-day happy chemical jumpstart.
Nice. Okay. Links for everything. And if you can link the pre-order in the comments here too, or I will get that from you. Thank you so much. Such a wealth of information, because the thing is, the comparison game you just talked about it is so dangerous when you're showing up in video and doing this, because you'll never, ever win. You will never win. And the thing is, when you start just owning who you are, that's when you win. That's when people really connect with you. So I just love this. Thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate it. It's been such a wealth of information. Ladies, thank you for watching. Again, any comments you have, put them in here below and we will get back to you. Loretta, thank you so much for your time today, and wish you guys all a great weekend. Bye.